Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we Masech the Ksubas daf Samach Zayin. We are going to begin on Samach Zayin Amud Aleph by the two dots, about 10 lines or so from the top. So the Gemara says as follows: Rav Shimon bar Abba Rav Yochanan Hachnislo Zahav Shoman Oiso. So we mentioned in yesterday's daf that as part of the dunya, as part of the dowry, if she brings in money, so since he's able to use that in the ksuba, it's written down, because if they're divorced, so then it's given back. But he's able to use that money right now, and therefore, because he can do business dealings with it, therefore he has to add extra money onto it. However, when it comes to something which needs to be evaluated and assessed, such as kalim, in which depreciates, so the fact that he has that, it actually loses value, and therefore it's a deduction off of the ksuba. However, when it comes to this situation where she's bringing gold, and we'll see that these are large bars of gold, then shomanosa, we evaluate arihu keshavya. Since the gold is not beneficial for him to use in business, it adds nothing to him. And therefore he doesn't have to add anything into the ksuba, but he also doesn't depreciate it because these bars of gold also will not depreciate. Tomorrow says, is that true? Gold is just like kalim. Now we know, my love kalim shall zahav depaxi, that when it comes to kalim, as we said, it is a deduction off the ksuba. So if we're saying gold is just like kalim, so in l'chayra, it should be deducted. Where it says low, kalim shall zahav deloy pachti. When it says it's talking about kalim, it's talking about gold is just like a golden kli. And therefore, even when it comes to a gold kli, also will not be depreciated. Imkain kikalu meboile should say like its vessels. That sounds to be the better language, if that's really what the answer is. But furthermore, Tanya zav har kikalim. First of all, it says gold is like vessels, and then it says dinre zahav. Regarding dinre zahav har kikalim, those pieces of gold, which are like coins, golden coins, is like kesef, and therefore you have to add it, because that you will be spending and using for business. In the place where it's the custom for it not to be exchanged, says Rashi, sheish lehen kitzvas matbeya. There's a set coin, lachlifan tamid, that are constantly exchanged bidinari kasef ubeprutos lahosel schayra. So maybe in like breaking 100, you'll be able to have smaller denominations. Then shomanaisan. Then in fact it will be evaluated. Varihin bishavehen, and it will be just like its worth. So because it's not exchanged, it remains this large currency, and it's something which you're not able to do business with. So therefore, it's not considered an addition or a deduction. So when he said this statement, which part is he going on? Is he going on this last point? So even in a situation where this gold is not exchanged, and therefore it just sits there, you still have to use it as part of the ksuba, that it's considered to be a potential deduction. Halo nafki, it's not being used, and it shouldn't be added because it's not being used. It doesn't make sense. The chayro, when it comes to a large bar of gold where no one's using, it should not be part of the equation, because after all, it's not being used. It has no real benefit to the Baal. El lava resha. So they can't argue there. Rather, they must be arguing on the resha of the statement. But Hakakamer, this is how to read it, which will give us a question. Zahav harihu kalim. So gold has the same status as kalim, which is a deduction off the ksuba. So my kalim shall kesef. That's referring to silver, because kesef is a currency in which is generally used, and therefore it's something which you would benefit from. Harihu kidinarim shel zahav. It's actually like golden coins, but in a place where it is not deducted. So if it's true, again, that it's talking about the ratio, so then we actually see that when it comes to gold, unlike the statement of Rabbi Yochanan, we shouldn't say Bahari Hu Kishavya. So Gemara says, well, Olam a Seifa. Really, it's talking about the Seifa. So, one second, if it's talking about the Seifa, so then if it's not something which is exchanged, so then why would you think that there should be any changes? It should just remain the way it is. So the answer is this golden bar can actually be converted into coins and smaller currency, but it's not something which is so easy. It's difficult perhaps to find money changers to do it. It's something which is time consuming and difficult, which causes exertion. Since it could happen, therefore it actually is beneficial to you, and that's the reason why it's necessary for you to, again, add into the ksuba and one's most of chomesh. He says no, since it's not really done, because the only way you can do it is with great difficulty, then it's not considered to be anything of real use, and therefore there is no change. So it's possible, again, we're talking about a situation, dafka, where it could be done. However, in a situation where it's not done, such as, just as Rabbi Yochanan says, Zahav, so Shomanaisai Vaharihu Kishavya, because it's just something which a person does not have benefit for. As we often hear, when we hear the Shita of Rabbi Shemuel, sometimes it's all inclusive. This is how you're supposed to read his entire statement. Zahav harihu kekalim. Gold is just like a golden clay. Dinari zahav, and therefore it has the status that it's kishav, that there's nothing, you just write exactly its worth into the ksuba. Dinari zahav, however, when it comes to golden coins, harihin kiksafim, has the same value as the silver coins, and therefore it's something which you do use. But that's only in a situation where there's an exchange, where it's generally these golden coins are able to be converted into silver coins. As we said before, in a situation where these monies are not going to be converted or exchanged, we evaluate as we said before, that it remains in its status. So, but still, we have the original question. It should say not that it sounds like kalim, regular kalim. Otherwise, if someone golden kalim, then we should say that golden kalim is just like gold. Or gold is just like its kalim, kasha. So you're right, that is a question. The language could have been said a little bit more clearly, but nonetheless, it's not enough to say that this is not an accurate statement. Alternatively, Rashi says, kikalim shel kesef depaxi, that when it comes to this gold, it actually is something that is deducted, just like silver. So how is this possible? So we're saying hakmaiskinan bedahava pricha, pieces of gold that crumble. What does that mean? Says Rashi, Dachiyam Rabbi Yochanan begrutais gedolos. He's talking about large bars of gold. That's something which a person is not going to use, and therefore that's why he says the din is regarding bringing this gold baharihu kishabi. That it's just, you write exactly, there's no deductions, there's no additions. Umas nisin, where it says that there is deductions or things that you or in this situation, it can be, you add to it because you're using it, but to have a pricha. Gurutais dakai, small gold, shenayfamehen, kimishemashemehen. It falls when you use it, or it crumbles, and those can depreciate. So because of that, that is something which is used, and therefore it's something which can depreciate, and therefore there are deductions. Ravashi Omer bim mola. It's talking about, Rashi says, dakshal zahav, very fine pieces of gold, like gold dust or golden chips, in which that is used. Omer Rav Yanai besamim shel antoichia, this type of spice, and this is, Rashi says, hu ikar secharasan. This is something in which is used for business. The isha shachnis labala shum mehen, a woman brings evaluated besamim, the spices from them, harhin kiksafim l'haisa shlish. It's something which he can use for business, and therefore he has to add harhin kiksafim. Amr Rav Shmuel bar Nechemani, Amr Rav Yochanan, gemalim shel Arabia. When it comes to these camels, isha gaiva parna mehem, a woman should bring a parna. Rashi says revach shlish, an extra third from them. Again, because they have value to be used. Amar papi hani tosave debe michse. These types of garments, says Rashi, smalo shel oisamakum, of this location, isha gaiva parna mehem. A woman collects, again, like a third from them, because when it came to these garments, also something which you could almost use almost as a form of currency back then, and it was a form, something which men could use for business. So therefore, it was added value into the relationship. Papi hani saki deroidia. These sacks from this location, or the ashle demichuzaya, or these ropes, isha goiva part of my hand. Again, when it comes to these ropes, these are things that people used. Says Rashi, "Lazeh shamati ksuma men nechse yisaymim v'lo amrina matatli diasmi v'lo memshabadi l'bal chayiv." Okay. Omer Rava Mareish, originally Havamina Hani Arniki de Mechuza. I would think when it came to these bags of Mechuza, Isha Gaba Parnamihem, my taima, as Samachtaihu Olayhu. They actually rely on them. Says Rashi, Begavin Metaltalin, Kihani Shehin Lahen, B'makam Karkois, that they would collect and use it like as a form of metaltalin, just like in the place of land. This was something that they used for business. Once I saw that they take it and go out, and when the land increases in value, they sell it together with these money bags. Amina asmachtaihu arahu. They're actually relying on the land. Ve'en goyvais element karka mini yisaymim. And we know we only collect from land from the yisaymim. When it comes to collecting from the yisaymim, we don't collect metalton, we only collect karka. Okay, let's look at question 11. Madua savaravel amemar de arniki, that these money bags, the mechuza isha goyva parna mehem, who madua chazerma. Then why did he ultimately retract? So he says like this: Mi'ikara sarvadas machtaihu debei mechuza lehem. Since the bnei mechuza relied upon these money bags, b'chashuvim hamois shehem lehem kekarka. They were a chashuv, so they were just like land. Kivan shara shehagoiva mois kaina behem karka. That this is actually has a din of metaltalin. So originally they thought it had like the din of karka, and therefore you could actually collect from the assignment from this. However, they ended up saying no, it's actually like metaltalin, and therefore not. Next Mishnah. Amasias bitoy stam, the person who marries off his daughter plainly. In other words, he doesn't mention anything about giving a penny into the relationship. There's still a minimum requirement for the dowry of 50 zuz. Pasuk lachnisa aruma. Let's say the father says he's not giving her any clothes into the marriage, and the chassan agrees to this. Lo yomer habal. So the husband shouldn't say, the husband to be, that kishach nisena levesi achasena b'ksusi. I'm going to wait until she actually marries me, then I'm going to give her clothing. Elwa mechasa, you should give her clothing, even if she's still in the father's house. So that's a requirement. Even then, you have to already start giving to her. So too, when who marries off a Yisayma, we also need to give her something. We have to give her a dowry. And if there's a kiss, literally a pocket, there's the ability to, then we should give her according to her honor. Rabbi, so as we mentioned this svara before, it's not referring to, it's Rashi says, Zuzi Medina, Shemayin Mehem Zuz Suri. So it has to be talking about the lower currency, which is 1/8 of the more valuable currency. If let's say there's extra money, then you should honor her this Yisayma. V'amrinan my kis, Amarachava Arnaki, Shil Sadaka. If let's say there is money in the charity fund, then to give a little bit more, then you should give her more. Which is an absorbent amount of money. If there's more money, how much are you going to give to her already? It must be it's talking about the lower currency, and therefore it's not a significant amount of money. It's something, but the reality is that if you can give her more, it's better to do so. So you're supposed to give to this Yisayim at least 50 Zuzi Pshiti. What if you have a man and a woman, or a boy and a girl, they're both orphans, and they're both want to get sustained? So Mafarnasin Esi Yisayima, Yach Mafarnasin Esi Yasam. You take care of the girl first. Ladies first. Why? Because it's more demeaning for a man to knock on doors. Rashi says from Zonos, Shil Sadaka. So in that situation, better that you should give it to the girl so she doesn't have to be knocking on doors. Yasam Yisayma, as we continue to Samach Zayin and Beis, again you have these two people, Shiba'u Linase. They both want to get married, and we only have a certain amount of money in the Sadaka funds. So Masiyan Esi Yisayma, first we marry off the girl. Because the embarrassment of a girl is more than the boy. Now that could mean because it's more important for her to get married, or the whole notion of having a big beautiful wedding is something which is more significant to the woman than to the man. Tanaban Yosem Shabal Lisa. So let's say you have this boy, or in this situation, who they don't have anyone to marry them off, so you need to help them. So what is the order? What should you provide for them? First of all, Seichin lo bias, first give them a house to live in. Matzin lo mita, b'chol klei tashmishai, so you should give him a bed and all other basic necessities for the house. Yachach masin lo isha, then you can help him get married. Shnemer de machzoroi asher yachsalo. You have to give to him what he's lacking. So what do we darshan from this pasuk? Dei mechasaro, what is he missing? Zehabayis. Asher yachser, he's missing zemita, b'shulchan, a bed and a table. Lo, zu isha. Chenu omer, eselo, ezer kenegdo. Regarding Adam and Chava, you see the word lo, it's referring to a wife. Tanu banan. Dei machsarai, they're supposed to give the poor down what they're lacking. Atom mitzuva lov afarnasai, atom mitzuva lov ashrai. You have to give them some basic necessities, but you don't have to actually make them rich. But then the pasuk says, "Asher yachsimbo, afil sus lirchabalav evid loritzelfanav." Even a horse to ride, and even a servant to run in front of him. In other words, if they had all these things and then they lost it, so to them this is something that they're lacking. Amulav al Hillel Zaken. Regarding Hillel Shalaka Cha'ani ben Taivim, there was a person who his family was very wealthy, and so was he, and all of a sudden he fell upon difficult times. He became poor. So in that situation, so he provided Echad Sus L'Rechavalav, the Eved Loretz L'Fanav. He gave him again a horse to ride and a servant to go in front of him. Pamachas Lo Matzah Eved. The problem, there was no Eved on that day. He couldn't hire any workers. Loretz L'Fanav, Loretz L'Fanav Shlosh Milin. So Hillel himself ran in front of this guy. Tanubanan. Ma'aseh ba'anshi galul ha'elyon. So there's a story. Shalachu ani ben Taivim. that they purchased for, again, this poor person, but he was once wealthy. Echad mitzipori litra basar b'chol yoim. Litra basar my revusa. So we actually gave this massive amount of meat every single time. So Rav Huna litra basar mishel oifais. So it was actually birds. And Rashi says shedemem yikarim b'hu haya mu'unag. He was a very finicky person, so we gave him the finest delicacy, which in those days were birds. V'bois ema belitra basar mamish. We actually gave them the litra, is referring to currency, which is why it's questionable. What does that mean? It means the amount of money of a litra for meat. Ravashi Amar Hasam Kfar Katan Haya. This was a small village, says Rashi. Vein Hamaiser Nimchar, and any leftovers could not be sold. B'chol yoim havi masdi chevasa tulate. There was constantly a loss, says Rashi, b'shviloi, because of him. Behind the Ravus, this one means to tell you, l'oilam b'mishka litra basar kaimer. He always gave this amount, even though sometimes there was it was more than necessary. Ahuda asal kamedu Rab Nechemia. So someone came from Nechemia, Malay bama atasayid. With what will you be satiated? Malay b'basar shamein v'yain yashan, which is basically the most expensive things imaginable: fatty meat and old wine. She said, would you like to basically be with me regarding lentils? So giggling about dashim umes. So he gave him lentils and he died. So he reflected upon himself and he says that woe to this person that basically I killed him. Adarab that shahargu Nechemia. So Adarab oil Nechemia shahargu lazem boile. What do you mean that he killed Nechemia? You killed him. El ihu hu delo iboile afnuki nafshe kuli hai. He should not have been so finicky. So it's interesting that he was actually saying, I didn't kill him. He killed himself. The fact that he had such high expectations, so it's not something which is my responsibility. So he said, Rabbi said to this person, Bamata Sayid, Armalo Batarnagoylus Patuma, fattened chickens, Viyan Yoshan, old wine, again, very expensive. Armale, Veloy Chayish, Laduchaka de Tzibura. Aren't you concerned that you're really placing a lot of burden on the community? Armale Atu what? Medidhu Kachilna. Midrachmana kachilna. From you I'm eating, it's from Hashem. The Tanina it says, Eini koyelech yisaberu, vi'ata noisin lehemes acha bi'itoi. Bi'itam lo nemar elo bi'ito, in its time. Mulamishikol echad echad noisin HaKadosh Baruch Hu panasaso bi'itoi. That Hashem gives everyone their parnasa in their time. Adei hachi, in the meanwhile, asoi achte the Rabba, so his sister came, doli chazile Tleisere Shanei. They didn't see for 12 years. The Asile Tarnagolos Petuma. And she brought this fatty Tarnagolos, Vayayin Yoshan. And maybe because she wanted to, give a gift to her brother. She hasn't seen him so long. Mai de Kama said, what is this that you that's in front of you? So we look at Rashi over here. Be'ito hakolafi mashu tzarich kol yachid v'yachid lefi lemudo. Every person gets that which they need. So ma dekama, says Rashi, ma davar zeh she'ira lafane. What is this that you brought in front of me? Aton now. Shol hayisa ragel b'kach shebas loy zula kan v'tarnagos v'yan yoshin b'yada. How is it possible that all of a sudden you have this stuff in your hand? Amalei nanesilach. I swear to you, kum achol, go and eat. So basically, this was a little bit of a shocker for the great Rava, that this is how things ended up turning out. That in fact this person wanted it, and by chance Rava's sister came and provided this for him. Tanrabanan. What happens if you have a situation where a person does not have any money. He's poor, but he doesn't want to take any tzedakah, so he's going to starve. So what do? So nice little shum halva. So you should give it to him as a loan. And then afterwards, nice little shamatana. Mayor. So this way he'll take it. So say, no, I'm not giving it to you as a gift. I'm just lending it to you. Okay, fine. And then afterwards, you can just forget about the loan. Give it to him as a gift first, and then give him a loan. What do you mean? If you give him as a gift, he doesn't want to take it. He doesn't want it. So Rabbi, open it up l'shum matana. Open it up as a gift. Let's see. Fine. So again, liftayach, to open it up l'shum matana as a gift. Okay. So let's say a person he's wealthy, but he's like but he doesn't want to support himself, so he's going to starve. Nice and low, give it to him l'shum matana. Give it to him as a gift, and then afterwards you can collect from him. But if you take it back from him, he's never going to want to take from you ever again. So you can collect from him after Misa. After he died, then you can take all the money that you lent to him, that you gave to him. No. If you have a person that has money, right, and you just don't, and he just doesn't want to sustain himself, right, you don't have any responsibility. You do nothing for him. Some will say, you know what, I'm going to give me a mashkon, even though you don't need it. Says Rashi, Yigba Libo, lift up his heart, limmer daitum. Their intention is lachser v'ligvois himeni, to collect from me, hoyel v'tavuni mashkin. They're collecting collateral from me. Einzu el halva. It must be a loan. The yitoyel below boishes, he'll take it without embarrassment. Shiyoimar ainli mashkain, the him yomer toyel below mashkain. So basically, I don't need this mashko and ask him for a book or something that he doesn't really need anyway. Yeah, okay, because I want to make sure I get my money back. And this way he'll take it, and then at the end you're not going to end up collecting from him anyway. But this is a way of avoiding embarrassment. TA 21. Ma'adin yeshlo, he has the eno rotzelos farnes, but he does not want to sustain himself. So again, this is a case of yeshloi, the eno rotzelos farnes. So according to one opinion, Rav Shimon says in the skokenlo, you don't have to give him anything, or if you want, you could actually collect l'achar misa. That's also a possibility. If yeshlo of inroitzelos parnes, so nice and low l'shumatan v'chayzim nefraim imanu l'achar misa. This is TA 21. Let's see if that's what it he says. B'yeshlo l'chachamim ein iskakim lo. Rabbi Yehuda nice l'matan nefraim l'achar misa. The ein lo. O noisel mishum halva v'chayis shematana o paisel shematana v'noisel halva. You start saying it's going to be a gift, but then you give it to us as a loan. Rav Shimon says you should give him a mashkoin and take. Okay. So these are all different strategies to be able to get this person to take monies, even though he may be uncomfortable or embarrassed to do so. Either give it to him as a loan first, or take a mashkan, etc. Okay. Tanabalam. Haveit, regarding the mitzvah of lending to someone else, zesh ein lo ben rosel farnes. This is referring to someone that doesn't have and doesn't want to support, does not want to take mizonos. Shenois l'shum halva, give it to him as a loan. And then as a gift. Tavitenu, What does it mean, this extra language of, again, a gift? Zes shieshlo, the interested sparnes, this person who actually has money, should nicely give him as a gift, because they so we said to Rabbi Yehuda that you can still give him the money, but you can just collect it after he dies. Actually, that's not true. The fact that he has, there's no need for you to have to provide for him, and therefore you don't have to give him anything. The fact that it's a double language, that's how the Torah sometimes write it, because that's how people speak. Mar Ukva havi anya b'shivuse. So Mar Ukva had this poor person in his neighborhood, that he used to always put 4 zuz in this opening, this hole in the hinge of the door. And that's how he used to do it. So he didn't actually have him, no one saw him do this. He just opened the door, and all of a sudden there was always money. Yom Chad, one day, Amr Ezel Ichsi Man Ka'ovid Behahut Tivusa. So I want to be able to figure out who's this person that's doing something really nice for me. So it turned out that Mar Ukva got up a little late to go to the base medrash. Asya debesu bahade kivan dechazua dekomatzile ladasha navik bastraihu. So what ended up happening is that day he put the money bot in his normal place. The poor person saw this, but he didn't really get a good glance of who it was. So he started to pursue him to see who it was. Rohit Mikamei. Lahu Atuna. So he actually jumped into an oven. Dahavi Garufale, which was swept. Dahavi Garufa Nura, of fire. Havika Mikalian Kare Demar Ukva. It was actually singeing his feet. Armule Debesu Shakal Karech. Oisiv Akare. You take your feet and put them on my feet. Cholosh Daite. So he felt bad. Amrule Anosh Chichna Begave Debesi. Mikarva Ahnyasi. So you shouldn't feel bad. So even though again he went together with his wife, and his wife for someone who's not getting her feet burnt, it's because she was able to do more mitzvos, because she was always able to provide bread and meat and salt for people. But for you, which is also a very similar Gemara in very similar Gemara in Tainus like this, that we see that better, the fact that you're home and you can give someone food immediately is better than giving them money. So my kuli high. The question is, why are they doing this? To jump into an oven? Do you remember Zutru Bar Tovia, Amarav, Yamarla, Amarav Huna Bar Bizna, Amarav Shimon Chasidav, Yamarla, Amarav Yochel, Mishim Rav Shimon Ben Yoichai, Noachel Adam, this Gemara in Brachas as well, Noachel Adam Shimser Atzmul Takishan Eish, better to, so to speak, jump into a fiery furnace, Yal Yalbin Penei Chaver Baraban, on bear someone Manom, Tamar Dechsev Himutses. Then we know that Tamar, who was with Yehuda, and she was being sentenced to death, and she showed these items, the staff, etc., which was proof that it was Yehuda that she was with. She didn't reveal that it was him. Says Rashi, "V'hi sholcha avlapi sheba'asa lisaref lo gilta hadavar." She didn't reveal the matter. El im ken yigal hu. If he said anything, v'im lo yigal nisrafes. If he didn't say anything, then she would have been burnt, because she didn't want to embarrass him. Mar ukva havi aniya b'shivuse de havi ragil l'shturele arba me'azuzi kol mali yom kipura. So he used to give money to the poor every Arab Yom Kippur. Yom Chad shadrinu nihile biyad brei. So one time he was given in the hand of his son. Asa amalei lotzarach. He said, I don't need it. Omer my chazas. What do you see? Chazoi deka mazlefele yain yoshan. Because I saw him sprinkling old wine. So obviously he doesn't need this money if he has yain yoshan. Omer mefanikuli hai. He must really be such a finicky person. Afinhu v'shadinhu nihile. So then certainly, says Rashi, kaflinhu, we should give him even more. Kikon nicha nafshe, when he died, Omer Aisili chushbani the tzedakah. you should give the cheshbon for tzedakah. Ashkach dahavi ksibe shivas alfi dinre sianke, that which is Sianke is name of a place, which is again 7,000 dinarim. Omer, he said, zavadoi kalile, that with light provisions, says Rashi, Seda Kala, Hachinaisi Laderech Chayka, Shani Yotzala. I have light provisions, the Orcha Rechikta, and I have a long place to go. Come Bazbaze Lafalgi Memoine. And he went and he gave up half of his money. What do you mean? He gave half. We saw this previously on Daf Nun, that you're not supposed to give more than 1/5 of your wealth. So how could he have given a half? The whole problem is only doing it because you may end up needing to take money. You have to take money from people because you're going to run out of money, so you're going to be collecting charity yourself. But if it's something that you're going to do lachar misa, that because the person is already about to die and therefore he decides to give more money, then it's not an issue. Ad kan.